Well, Justina, you and I both share similar backgrounds. We're kind of sisters in arms, if you will. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and you are actually a music therapist. When you go to your website, justclassical.com, you will find on your blog where there's several different articles where you are giving testimony to the power of music and how it can boost the brain with music education, the importance of including music in your homeschool, and how it even impacts child development. I know as a mom of a special needs learner the power of music that we have experienced in our home. My son participates with our through our occupational therapist in something called therapeutic listening, and I can tell you the power of music has helped with handwriting, it has helped with PE, believe it or not, with his ability to be more coordinated and more balanced, but it has also helped with his mood. Can you speak to our listeners about the power of music and how it can impact learning?
Right. So, as you mentioned, I have a background in music therapy. And so I have gotten to watch how music can impact lives. And when I did work in music therapy for a few years. And then there were a few years after that I got into early childhood music education. And I actually really loved the curriculum that I started using. It's called Music Garden. And because it basically had some of the same things as the music therapy, where when you're a music therapist, you have goals for your clients and you measure the goals and you work on meeting them through music
Mm-hmm.
application.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what the early childhood music did as well. So as I mentioned, I even taught these early childhood music classes when my kids were in the womb. And so they were exposed to it all the way. So music is important in enhancing our children's development because there are musical stages that perfectly correlate with the different stages of our children's development. So in the womb, our
Really?
kids can hear. That's one of the very early things that develops, the first sensory organ to develop. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's like 20 days that the ear is starting to develop. Let me see if I can remember or find where I wrote that.
Oh, that's okay. Well, that also makes me think linked to the ear. Now, remember, my background is just eyebrows up with the brain, but linked to the ear is your vestibular system
Right.
and your sense of balance and coordination. So, yeah, I can see how those two would go together. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the womb, they can hear, they recognize their mother's voice. And then once they're born, their eyes are still not focused. You know how babies are not very focused right when they're first born. And so they're
Yes.
hearing the voice and they're comforted by their mother's voice. Maybe their father's voice too, but I think it's stronger, of course, with the mother. And then you'll notice that
Mhm.
steady beat things really calm a baby down. So they were used to hearing their mother's breathing and heartbeat, which are steady beat. And so they hear those. And then, like you said, the ear is not just for hearing, but for vestibular. And so that balance
Mhm.
and so the first thing in development is listening and the ear. And then the next thing is movement because they are so intimately attached to each other. So then, of
I
course, music enhances both. Music is about listening, uh, and it's sound,
Mhm.
right? I should say music is sound. And so listening is what we do, right? And then music inspires us to move. And so you'll see kids doing that little bouncy thing when they hear a steady beat when they get to a certain age, toddlers. And so then after that, they're going to start having some language skills, and music imitates language skills. There's pauses, there's kind of questions in the phrasing of music, and there's call and response and things like that in music that imitate language. And music has its
That's
own
true.
language with the solfege, is what we call it, with pitches in the scale, or a rhythm language. There's different rhythms that are like a language. So music enhances language development. And then next, of course, are social skills, where kids are learning to interact with other kids, and music can enhance that. It can bring out a really positive way of interacting socially with an ensemble, like singing rounds and having to hold your own part while listening to another part, um, or taking turns, because a lot of music, especially if you watch an orchestra or a band, um, not all of the instruments play at the same time. Sometimes they do, but there's parts where
That's true.
certain there's a solo or a small ensemble of brass, let's say, playing together while the strings and the woodwinds are resting, and so you bring out different parts, and so it's just this beautiful social, uh, not experiment, but social way of interacting together. So music enhances that social development.
Mhm.
And then, of course, music, the next stage that we talk about with kids' development is emotional. And so kids are learning to express
Mm,
themselves in an appropriate way. And music can help be that outlet. It can be comforting to us. We know that as adults, that music is also comforting. And I know you were talking about music, emotionally for your son, is calming when he
yes.
needs to be calm. And so we all know that can help
Hmm.
emotionally. And then the last part of development is cognitive development. And so music just enhances that. And in music, we've got reading and writing and creativity and composing music. So it's also enhancing that cognitive development as well. So that's just early childhood development. And then, of course, academically, we're boosting the brain, as I talked about, reading
Hmm.
and writing, and so the language processing. But then thinking about math, music is mathematical. We're counting all the time, and
It is.
with notes, they're based off of a whole note, which is 4 counts. And so if you divide up that whole note, then you get fractions. So you've got quarter notes
It's
and eighth
true.
notes and 16th notes and half notes. I should have said that one first. But, basically, as you learn to count music and read music, you're doing fractions in your head and you're keeping a steady beat. And so it's very mathematical. Um, and then it's helping us with analysis and critical thinking and reasoning, um, because it's an expressive means. Music is expressive. So, and then of course, music helps with memorization. The best way to memorize something is to a song, right? The ABCs.
That's
So,
true.
all these different things, I could go on and on probably, but these are some of the ways that music boosts the brain, helps with development. And so, yes, it's going to help our children in every area.
It does. It absolutely does. And I learned so many things about that today that I didn't realize. Well, since I'm not someone who's strong in music, I'm like, oh, yeah, it is mathematical if you think about it.
Yeah.
But then again, I play the radio, so I'm grateful for people like you.